Hi, everybody. I am Sandy Payne. I am your host of the PCS Project Podcast. We are here again today. I've got a super fun guest from Savannah, Georgia, Cathleen Barela. She is visiting with us today. We're going to learn all things to do with Georgia, Fort Stewart, and all of that, all the great places to live and fun things to do. So welcome, Kathleen.
Thank you. Thank you. So glad to be here.
So tell me, first off, just for our listeners, just kind of a little bit about you, your space there as a realtor, but then also what are the areas that you serve most?
So I'm Cathleen Barela with Barela & Associates with eXp Realty, and we have been in the area. My husband was actually stationed at Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah and retired from Hunter Army Airfield about 3 years ago. And we decided to make this area our home. Essentially, we serve everywhere from Hunter Army Airfield to Fort Stewart. So that's pretty much Savannah, all the surrounding areas, Southeast Georgia, coastal areas, all the way down to almost Brunswick. So it's a pretty large area that we cover here. Have been in real estate for 19 years, am a small team made up of other military spouses, and we just love what we do and who we work with.
That's awesome. I love that. Similar here. We've got a pretty big radius here at Forthood, and most of our team members have some type of, whether they're an active duty military spouse or have some type of military affiliation. And I think that really helps when we're working with people relocating to our area to not just be a really good knowledge base for the community and the area, but also, have that common piece. You are a military spouse. You go through the day-to-day life kind of that they do as well, even though you're working, as a realtor. We speak their language. And I think that that plays a big part in my business here, and that connection that I make with my, past, current, and future clients. How do you get the word out? What are you doing there to kind of translate that to the military community? Like, what are some of the ways that you do kind of reach out and let the community know that they're there for them?
Yeah, we and that's super important to us, I think, because it's almost like our people, right? Like we have this common thread of really understanding what it's like to do mail away closings, or find a house sight unseen, or close on a house without one of the two, husband or wife being there, and dealing with just the intricacies of a different level, a different stress level is really different. And one of our biggest goals was to make it where if the challenge is going from one duty station to another every 2 to 3 years, 3 to 4 years, and you're picking up everything, kids losing their friends, essentially, right? They're moving from one place to the other. We wanted to calm the tension down as much as possible. So it was really important for us to have an established community of our past clients. It's great for business, consistent referrals, but more importantly, we had a vision of when, Tanya moves from Fort Gordon to Hunter Army Airfield, we have the connections, whether it's babysitters or contractors or what have you. So we've really been, our value proposition isn't just doing business with us because we have tons of years of experience. We know what we're doing. We always work in the best interest of our client, but also that we have the resources that you're going to need. And we've already filtered through all of those different avenues to give you what we believe is the best of the best. So that's awesome. And then the other thing where the community piece kind of comes together is focusing on our client community events. It's awesome that our clients are friends. They legitimately become friends, because it's kind of that theory of like attracts like. So I would like to say that we absolutely love our clients and we're friends with them and we have these relationships with them. And in turn, when we're having client appreciation events, which are super fun just to go to, period, but they're making friends there. And it kind of is like this plug and play community. And it works really well on both facets of gaining referrals in business, keeping those relationships, and then also helping out military spouses and family feel like they're already part of a community right when they get here. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I love that. And being that resource, we create something here that I've made for my team. It's called the passport to the 254. 254 is like our area code. And
Okay.
so we've kind of collected all of the like best coffee shops, like best place to get drinks, best food, things to do with your kids, boutiques to shop at. Kind of created this little passport type piece. And
Cool.
we feel the same way. Like, you get to a new duty station, you're like, oh, where's the best hair salon? Like you see it all in like the Facebook and the feed. Where do I go to get my haircut? Where do I take my pets to the vet? Where do I sign up my kids for sports? And so we kind of created that little community piece so that we can give that to clients, and we tap that into like the chambers, so they give it to like the new residents and stuff like that. And every person that we chose to put in this little passport, we've actually talked to them, and they allow us to put passports like at their different businesses. So if
Awesome.
they're frequenting and they haven't heard about it, but they're going to the local coffee shop and they see it sitting on the counter, they can pick it up. And again, it's that just like, we've been here, like, don't go try to figure out like all the great stuff to do. We've been here, we hear about it. And the other piece I love that you said is, having your client appreciation events, where you have some people that have been in the area for a couple years, and then you've got like the newbies coming in, and it's kind of that little welcoming committee, not just where you can almost step back and just watch the
Yeah.
relationships grow. And that's something that's really important, because when we moved a bunch, we moved for 23 years, moved 7 different duty stations, 3 of them being in Germany, and it was really hard to like just boots on the ground, because you want to integrate so quick.
Yes.
You're not going to be there very long. You don't have a year to like try to figure it out. Like, you want to get in there, like get rocking and rolling, know what to do, what everybody's doing, and kind of that plug and play. I love that terminology. Just kind of plug right into the community and just get rolling with it. And I love that you do that. Now, you haven't PCS before.
No.
Yeah, but you're a military spouse. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So what would you say, like from an observer view of never going through it yourself? You're dealing with clients day in and day out that are going through this. And so I'm sure you've picked up some interesting tips that you're probably just like, man, if we ever moved, like I would definitely have wanted to know that.
So it's interesting story. So when I met my husband, he was already in the military for about 9-10 years, something like that. And so he was actually deployed when we decided to move in together, the whole nine. Again, just kind of acclimating. I had no idea the world that I was getting thrown into, but I did know that we wanted to be together. We knew that we wanted to be together. And I wanted my kids to start school that school year, and he was deployed. So I went through this huge, 2,200 miles from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Savannah, Georgia, 2 kids in tow, 36-foot long Penske truck, pulling my vehicle. So I did it on my own, not necessarily affiliated with the military, which I don't know if it's more challenging or what have you. I feel like there's a lot more organized chaos when you're dealing with the military, because it's more of a timeline. This is what we're doing. You have movers, you have this, you have that. So I went through that whole circus completely on my own, got here, and really just landed and moved in and hit the ground running as far as real estate's concerned. Now, when I level with people that are PCSing, I think the biggest thing that it's done for me not to have experienced the actual PCS move is kind of seeing that bird's eye view, where it's more of a calm, collective, okay, let's take the hysteria out, and it's really just a process. It's step 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, whatever it is. And I think I have that calm way about me that's able to say, okay, got it. We got babies, we got dogs, we got all of this stuff, but let's really break it down to a simplified process. And we try really hard to help them make it simple. I would say one of the biggest things that we recognize that, say, for focusing on sellers, that our sellers really overanalyze things when it's time to go, because they almost want to make the house as perfect as they possibly can, when especially in this market, it's completely unnecessary. So we're able to eliminate a lot of that stress. And I would say on the buyer's side, really eliminating the stress of, let's say, it sounds crazy to some, but even being present for closing. I would say 50% of our buyers' closings, a majority of them are buying sight unseen, first of all, and we have a process behind that that makes them feel really comfortable, but also really eliminating the stress of, okay, I got to be there to go find a house. I got to be there for, let's say, walkthroughs or inspections, and I got to be there for closing. That's expensive. Yes. So really helping them through that and knowing what is really important to them is them feeling comfortable with the purchase. And for us, we've really just been able to tap into, let's say, for example, with the showing, we highlight all the imperfections in the showing. We're not making it, we're not presenting it like you see real estate agents present it, where it's like, oh, look at the spacious closet, and oh, look at this, that, the other. We're like, check this out, mismatched handles, all the imperfections, where we're simplifying it and trying to remove the stress level and get the buyer to feel comfortable and trusting us, like if we're purchasing it, but that really get comfortable with our communication style, that they recognize that we're really thorough about things.
Sometimes it's funny that you say that, because I find myself doing that as well, because when they're there in person, you open the door, if the lights aren't on, you're kind of like running around trying to put lights on and get the house, like you said, present the house to them. But yes, I feel like when I am FaceTiming, that we do a nice little pano, let me just walk through, here's the floor plan. And then we kind of go through it again. And they're like, is there anything I need to know? And I do feel like it's almost a little more detail oriented, because like you said, they're trusting us to stand in that space. If they were standing there, they may notice it, but that's on us to kind of help them make that decision. Where we identify, you can walk into a house and I don't know, I always say my feet are calibrated. Like if there's a problem with unlevel floor, I can literally feel it when I walk. And that's something obviously through a camera, they're not going to see. They're not going to smell. I have a lot of my clients are like, what does the house smell like? I'm like, what a weird question. But it's all of those sensory pieces. It's the looking, it's the feeling, it's the vibe, it's the daylight. All of the things that we are tasked with really trying to communicate that, through them, because the last thing we want to do is surprise, welcome to Texas. Here's your keys to a house. And they're like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, they're like, oh, no, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I thought. That's, I always tell our buyers specifically that, knock on wood, literally, we've never had anybody say, this is not what I was expecting. This is opposite of what I thought, or, I cannot believe you sold me this house, or disappointed, or anything like that. It may be almost like a unease of, wow, I bought this house and this is my home and I'm just seeing it for the first time. So maybe more hesitation for them to really get familiar with their new surroundings. But it almost feels counterintuitive to highlight all of the things that are wrong with the house and zoom in and share those things with them, because it's almost like you're turning them off to the house. But they really appreciate that there are no surprises when they get there. It's almost like, okay, I remember that stain on the carpet, or this wasn't a big deal. And
that's really our job. Our job is to stand in their place. If you're not physically here, we're going to do as much as we can to make you feel like you're here. I mean, I usually, if I'm driving into a neighborhood, before I get to the thing, I take videos. This is what it's like driving into, making the turns to get to the house. Here's a panorama of the whole street. You can this is down there. And I'm pointing in the video, down there, the road, and really being thorough. It's such a different experience. I don't know. Could you trust someone to help you buy a house sight unseen?
I would say a few years in, I would have answered absolutely not. Like, there's no way. That's such a huge purchase, and I'm so particular with things that
Mhm.
I would want to feel the space and get the flow. And I'm like about energy, and I want to
Right.
know, really like the intricacies of it. And all these years later, yeah, absolutely. It's almost like it takes out it's almost like less options is more freedom for like myself to just trust that I'm in the right place, if that makes sense. It's almost
Yeah.
like I wish people could pick out my food that I eat in the morning. I wish people would pick out what I'm wearing, how I'm
No
doing my
kidding.
hair. Like, I wish I had a team of people that just made all my decisions. Life would be so much easier.
Yes. Oh
So
my gosh. I never related it that. So I'm always like, yeah, we have a girl in our office and she's always bringing these healthy meals. I'm like, literally, will you just make me lunch every day? Like, could you just do that for me? Like, you would
yeah.
eliminate so much worry in the morning trying to get out of the house and figure out what I'm going to pack or forget to pack a lunch. Especially if I knew I was working with someone that did it like I did it. I think that's the big
Yeah.
kicker, right? I think that makes us different working with so many transient people. We've kind of honed that skill of really
Mhm.
presenting the home, whether they're here or not. I want to change subjects real quick because I
Yeah.
know when we were chatting before, we were talking about some interesting client stories where your jaw drops or you're just like, I cannot believe that happened. I've never heard anything like that. And you said you got excited when I was bringing up client stories. So is there one that just really kind of pings your mind as just like something super bizarre?
Oh my gosh. It's like every day, right? It's like, which one? Let's see if I could think of something extreme. You know how we love, love, love to work with property managers that have tenants in the house. That's a whole different bag of, yeah, that's just a different challenge altogether. And so we had been communicating with, and this is just one of the stories as to why not only is it important to have an agent that knows what they're doing, but an agent that regardless is going to have your back, like if you were their best friend or their sister. And that's not saying everyone's my best friend or everyone's my sister. That's saying, you treat people the way that you want to be treated. And if you were in certain situations, the people that go above and beyond are the most memorable to you. It just really is truth of life. And so we had this sweet family. I mean, I'm talking days out from delivery. Dogs, friend was coming down to help them move. They were pulling all of their entire life in their U-Haul. And I can only imagine it was like dead of summer. If you haven't been to Savannah, Georgia, say in July, imagine walking outside every day into a sauna, essentially. It's just ridiculously sticky and humid and all of that stuff. But so that's what their travel day was like. And we had been communicating with the property management company the entire time. And they assured us that they were going to be vacated. The tenants
Oh
knew,
my gosh,
this
I
whole
see where
song and
this is
dance,
going.
this whole song and dance. So they being the buyer's agent, and the buyers get to the property, and the buyers get there about 10 minutes before the agent. They just got there. They needed a landing point. So people needed to pee. People were thirsty. I mean, it was like, you can imagine coming in on 3 wheels, and they pull up and there's U-Hauls, garage full of stuff.
Oh boy.
I'm talking just disastrous. So the buyer's agent, who at that point was pretty new to the team, calls me, and you could tell that she was about to cry, but was holding it back, and said, I'm here, and the tenant isn't out, and buyers don't have the means to stay in a hotel. We have to close. Rate lock is expiring, blah, blah, blah. You know how it's just like the levels of pressure are on us.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay. I said, well, how's the buyers doing? And she said, wife is almost in tears. Husband is furious. Help me. And I said, okay, help is on the way. we're coming in. So just dropped everything, went over there. When I got there, it was like, by that time, tenants new homeowners, agent, tenants, parents, and family, thank goodness, lived in the area. So they were all there. I mean, it was like tons of people were there when I walked in, and I was, the property manager.
Oh, I
And
would
it's
have
like,
showed up
okay,
with a 6-pack or something. Just
I was like, okay, what's progressed since I got off the phone with you, 30 minutes ago? Where are we? And what was decided is it was all hands on deck. We were moving them out that day.
yeah.
And literally, I mean, it was like shoes off, hair up. Let's move this person out. Tenant was fabulous. He understood where it's one of those things where it's a domino effect, right? It's like tenant didn't get the correspondence that said what the time of the closing was going to be. And then was also notified the same day that his new rental wasn't ready because the painters were delayed. And it was just like this one thing after another. And so, yeah, we were there for hours, just moving this person out, helping his whole family. And I tell you what, those buyers, they just couldn't have been more appreciative because it was 4 extra hands. And we all know that when you're moving, that extra help means everything. It just really means everything. So we were able to work together, get him out. They slept there that night. We got the cleaners there the next morning. We got the landscapers there the next morning and just made it work. Right. But those stories, it's like one story like that, I would say, on a weekly basis. So that is why it's so important to have agents that recognize all of what it is to facilitate a real estate transaction. And then more importantly, that are willing to, like I said, just throw your hair up, take your shoes off and start moving. You got to sometimes.
Oh, I have strapped on leaf blowers.
Okay, I haven't done that. I would have no idea how to strap on a leaf blower, but I'm sure I could YouTube it if I want to.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, the stories are just one after another, but that to me is like the transaction law. Everybody can do the paperwork, but I love every client has a story and they're your own. And it really makes us, the more we go through it, like you said, I'm like, oh my gosh, you think this is bad? I had a client that and then you can share stories and everybody feels like, oh, it's not just me. Like this happens, things happen to people. Say with every transaction, there are hurdles. What are they? I don't know what they're going to be, but we're going to get over them. And we're just going to go with it. And I think our attitude, how we handle ourselves, because had you or that other agent kind of gotten into freak out mode, that vibe would have just carried amongst every other person standing there. And next thing you know, now people are threatening with attorneys and it could have just gone like a whole different direction. But here we really have an ability to kind of control that chaos and keep everybody at bay. And it always works out. I love it. It's like, it always works out. And I think that's why you're able to have such great relationships with your clients and have people attend your client parties and share stories. And, it is a very fun family. So besides people who buy and sell, because we have a lot of military members that do not buy or sell during a transaction, we're always here for them I would say, I don't care if you're buying or selling, you need a resource about anything in the town. I'm here, right? Tell me a little bit more about like, how is Fort Stewart laid out? Like, what are the neighborhoods like? Just a little bit more about the community. And if someone were coming and they happen to hear this podcast and like, oh my gosh, I'm going to Fort Stewart. What are kind of the top couple tips or things that you would want to share with them to, just kind of point them in the right direction and give them an idea of what they're going for?
Yeah. So the way that it is, so Hunter Army Airfield is in Savannah, Georgia. And then I would say Fort Stewart is a huge military installation. It's a huge reservation, huge. In a nutshell, there literally is some sort of pace and some sort of community for everybody, because it's literally just a melting pot of people. It's everybody that's local, that's lived here forever and ever, amen. And their grandmas and their grandpas have lived here forever and ever, amen. And then you have somebody like me from Albuquerque, New Mexico, the Southwest, that had never experienced the South like this and still feel so welcomed and at home. So you have everywhere from Tybee Island, which is very beach fun, funky, island vibe. You have all of your surrounding aisles, Whitmarsh, Isle of Hope, you name it. Then you have like a downtown vibe, historic vibe with all the different squares. So much history. There's so much to do. There's the most amazing restaurants, museums, what have you. It's just, you could literally, me and my husband love to just pick up on a Saturday and a Sunday, just aimlessly go downtown Savannah, park the car wherever we find a parking and just wander. Antique stores, there's shopping, there's, everybody's so friendly. There's so many, this is the #1 tourist destination right now. So you have this common thread of people that just want to enjoy life and relax. We have open container in certain areas downtown Savannah, so you can walk around with a beer or whatever. It's just this pace of like slower living, enjoyment, relaxing, like a cool vibe. You have your Midtown areas, your Georgetown areas, very family focused. You have Richmond Hill, which is known for their school district, super small town, about 8,000-ish people, really community vibe. That's where a lot of people that have the younger kids that are very invested in education, that's where they're going to go.
We've had friends that have lived in Richmond Hills. Yeah, that's from.
Yeah. Yep. So I live in Richmond Hill. I've been very, very happy and fortunate to have the opportunity to live here, specifically because it's almost like everybody that lives here wanted the same thing. They wanted that small town vibe with the conveniences of, you know, some restaurants, some shopping, you know, so there's walking trails, there's all these different things. There's a lot of community-based events. There's like a seafood festival, there's parks. I mean, there's just so many. If you want to venture out and have activities, you can have that anywhere. There's always something going on. Nice. And then you can slow down and I don't want to say slow down like it's a slower pace, but have more of a country vibe as well, where you have more land. That's more of, say, the Effingham area. There's Pooler, which is near your Savannah Airport and Gulfstream. There's a lot of shopping, a lot of restaurants there. I'll say a lot of traffic. So, but if you want that vibe and a lot of, say, younger families that want the convenience of commute, they're there. And then when you pull closer to Fort Stewart, you have from Richmond Hill to Midway to Alabel, which pulls you out to Bryan County. You have Walthireville, Hansville, you have Ludowici, and that is everything that I named, and there's so much more is in, like, say, a 30-mile radius.
So really, it sounds like no matter where you chose to live, you had a pretty easy commute to work, because I know that's a big, a lot of people, but you know, just decide if you want to do it by way of traffic or not. Really depends. What's about the price point? Like here at Forthood, our average price point is about $225, you know, slowly growing with just where we are in the market, but we're about $225. And kind of our really max high-end neighborhoods, luxury for us, you know, you're probably looking at the, you know, 6s and 7s. Occasional, you'll have the one pluses, not so much, but what's like an average going in? Because I know here, like if someone were here and they're living in a $250,000 house and they sell it, like what is that kind of average expectation that they think about there?
Yeah, so it depends on where you're looking, but overall average is 276,000.
Okay.
What you could have gotten last year for 276 is completely different from what you can get this year. So 276, that's again kind of just generalizing, 2,000-ish, 2,200 square feet, 4-bedroom, you know, your standard, there you go, 2-car garage. A good family single residential home. We have a lot of new construction right now. I would say entry point really right now in this current market is like 200 plus. If you're anything less than 200, it is few and far between. 276 being that median, you know, price point for the area just in general. But those prices can go all the way up to multiples of millions of dollars, just kind of depending where you are. And each area, let's say specific to Richmond Hill, right now your entry point is above 300, just because there's no inventory but
Right.
below that right now. So I would say 300 plus there. And in our area, those go up to million plus, just depending on the location. Their perspective, that annual HOA cost is $25,000 a year for that private gated community. And then we have, waterfront properties. Those are going to be, let's say 750 plus, just kind of depending on what you're looking at. But I will say that there are so many people that get into a home here and just like us decide to stay here because not only what's in the immediate area, but the fact that I can be in the North Georgia mountains in 4 hours, or I can be at Disney World in 4 hours in Orlando. I can be at a number of beaches in a couple of hours. I can, there's just so much. And when you talk about, okay, that's driving, but being in New York City in just over an hour, Atlanta in 45 minutes, you know what I mean? So it's just this great slower pace. I won't say small town feel in the sense of we don't have amenities, but I travel a lot for educational purposes with real estate and go to a bunch of different conferences. And it's that feeling of there's nothing like home. Like even our airport is the most darling, adorable, small airport ever. I think there's 11 gates. It's just quaint and peaceful. And it's that the valet attendant there at the airport, we're on a first name basis. You know what I mean? That's kind of the vibe that you get when you come here and travel here.
Wow, that sounds it. Makes me want to come to Savannah.
Yeah, come. I would love to have you. It's amazing.
I've never been. Yeah. We're about an hour. Fort Hood sits about an hour north of Austin, which is not anything like Savannah from the sounds of it. It's a totally different vibe, which is what I love. But we're kind of close too. We're the same way. We can go south but we have to go a couple hours we're still in Texas, so to get to the coast or to get to skiing, you've got to go to the outskirts of the state. But
real quick, now that you mentioned Austin, something that I didn't mention as well is that we have SCAD here in Savannah, the Arts and Design College that's really world renowned. And you got that funky vibe too, that real eclectic, whether it's museums or you just see the students walking around with, in my more conservative opinion, like flamboyant and funky. And and I think it might be just the age difference too, that I look at some of these styles and I'm like, okay, you do you, boo-boo, but you got that too. It's like everybody belongs, regardless if you're military or you're real vivid with your life and who you are, everything is accepted.
I love that. Well, I know it makes me want to come. If we had the chance to PCS there, I would definitely be looking forward to it, just on the little bit of time that we had together. Kathleen, I have enjoyed you. We would be friends if we were in the same spot, and I hope to keep our relationship going. And if there's anybody coming to Fort Hood from your area, we would love to help them. My team would love to help them. And of course, if we know anybody coming out to you, we'll send them your way. So it's been a pleasure.
Wonderful. Yes, absolutely. I feel the exact same way. We will stay in touch. And of course, if there's anybody that needs our help buying or selling, and like we were stating earlier, just wanting that connection for that community base or whatever is ours is yours as far as resources is concerned, we're happy to help and support our fellow military and anybody else.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. And listeners, if you need to get in touch with Kathleen or you have any more questions about the Savannah, Fort Stewart area, we will be making sure we have all of her contact information within this post, within the comments. That way you've got her to reach out. So I thank you again, Kathleen, and I hope that we get to talk again soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.